Hello and welcome to the Brethren. My name is Renee. This is Fictional Crafts and I've just decided to do a tag. I actually have seen this tag crop up by a few creators. It was originally posted by two creators. Let me just get their names up. Thoughts on Tomes, and my name is Marina. I'll link them down below. And I really do like this one because I need to find some more booktubers that have similar tastes with me. A lot of the booktubers I watch have complete opposite tastes to what I like to read. So this is the Get to Know My Taste tag. So my channel here, if you're new finding me through this tag, my channel is a bit of a mix. I talk about my indie publishing, which you can't see it because it's out of frame, but that's my book, Descend. Heliphile 4991.09, a Tide of the Stars Codex. It's a standalone. So I talk about my indie publishing, my writing. I have done some vlogs. I have recently come back to this channel. I did have another channel that I actually had to shut down. Not because of anything untoward. I moved my domain and my email hosting off Google Workspace and shut down, and that account subsequently had to be shut down, and my channel was attached to it, so it happens. But so yes, I do. I've been doing writing vlogs over the last couple of years. Reading vlogs, a little bit of authortube, a little bit of booktube, and a little bit of craft tube, I guess you could call it, because I do like to knit and crochet and spin, so a little bit of everything in one channel, because I am too lazy to have more than one channel. Okay, so before we get into the tag, a little bit about me. I am married to my lovely, amazing husband, and we have 4 children. We have 2 furred and 2 vaguely humanoid creatures. I call them my chaos demons, and I love them dearly, but they are chaos demons. So, and the wind's picking up out there, so apologies if you can hear it. I do not have the microphone attached to the camera tonight because I was actually going to get Deep Purple out, which is my really good mic, and I was going to do some chord management things. I'm looking at all the mess of chords on my cat table, and I did nothing of it today because I've been very tired. But what I thought I would do is this tag. So it is pretty lengthy. It is 15 questions long. And I can chat. So buckle up, sunshine. So, question 1. Now I've got them over here, so if I look over here, I am just reading the questions. I'm going to do this off the cuff too, so I might be pulling down some books to show you. Number 1. How do you rate books? Give a quick rundown on how you do your star ratings, or if you don't use star ratings, how you evaluate books. Okay, so I don't use star ratings. I see the use in them, but personally for me, I DNF a book if it's not for me. So if I get 50 to 100 pages in and I go, I am just not enjoying this book, I will DNF it. So obviously you can't give, I mean, you could give that technically a 1 star. But I just don't. I'm not on Goodreads. I'm not on. I have an account with NetGalley, but I don't use it for reading. I actually use it on the other side because I've put my book up on there to be read, things like that. So I don't need a star rating. I'm not on, what's the other one called? I don't even know what they're called. I just don't do it. I just don't get onto those sites. But as an author, yes, please get on their sites, review books. It's just, I feel like he's sitting here and chatting about the book, and in the lives, if we have it in the lives, me and Shah do when we do crafty chats, a book might come up and I'll just say, hey, read this book, it's really good, or I read that book, I didn't really like it that much, because everything is subjective. And I guess for me, I've also got this other situation where, for me, a book, okay, this is my TBR here. This is all my TBR here. But these are the only books in the house that I have not read, or at least glanced at, because I have 2 young children. And I don't want them reading of material that's not appropriate to their ages and mental development. So, so for me, a book... Oh, what's that? Oh, the plastic. Okay. So for me, when it comes to rating a book, it tends to come down to a couple of different things. 1, I didn't like it, I DNF'd it, I get rid of it. 2, I read it, something in the end pissed me off royally, I hate it, I'm going to get rid of it. And I will never get those hours back. It's happened. Ancient Future by Tracy Harding. And then there's the books that are alright, but I don't really see the value in keeping them around for future young readers to read, or depending on how old they get by the time it comes around. Pardon me. And then there's the books that I really do love. I enjoyed, or I see value in. I might not necessarily have liked it, or I just felt about it, but there's value in it. They're books that stay in my library or in the house library. I've got 2 libraries. I've got a library for the kids, which is mainly picture books at the moment. I'm slowly starting to build up the chapter book section. My son is starting to get to the point where he's starting to read quite well. Needs some incentive. Just trying to make sure there's some good books in there. So there's books that will stay in the house. And then there's my favourites, which is this glorious set here, hidden behind a ridiculous amount of knickknacks. So let me just bring it around here. So these are favourites, and they may or may not be appropriate for young readers. I like to read adult books. I read adult books. So I read, I've got all the Dunes, I've got all the Starship series, which are quite, when the kids are older, that'll be more than acceptable for them to read from about YA age up, because there's no graphic content in it, it's just they're good adventure stories. Then I have books like the Richard Morgan's Altered Carbon, which is one of my favourites. I think we come up to that soon, and then and then I've got other books which I love, good slice of life, anyway, what this is very rambly trying to say is that if it is something I want to reread, or I love so much it has to stay in the house, even if I don't ever get to reread it, it goes here. And they are probably what you would consider a 5-star book. So yeah, I don't use the stars. I sort of just use is it something I want to have around for my kids to read or for me to read? My husband's not a big reader, although he's listened to the Silmarillion that many times, he knows what happens in it, so he's more of a movie watcher. He likes his movies. So yeah, so I guess that's a bit of, I don't really have any sort of number system, but if I love it, you're going to hear me ramble about it. Question 2. How do you approach reviewing books? What's your review style? Are you analytical, emotional, casual, or structured? I'm still figuring out my review style. I am on this channel trying to do a 100 adult sci-fi indie book reviews, and I've tried a couple sort of read-along vlogs. I've done some after-the-fact reviews. I still am trying to figure it out. I like doing the read-along vlogs, so like a week worth of just, hey, I've been reading this book and this is how I feel about it and that sort of thing. But I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So, I'm still t We'll get there. Question number 3. What's the book that made you a reader? Whether it was your first favourite or the one that got you hooked or the book that started it all. Oh, okay. This might be a bit lengthy. Just going to let you know that. So, I distinctly remember in primary school absolutely adoring animals as protagonist books. So, the Silver Brumby series by Elaine Mitchell is an Australian series. When I stopped reading it, I thought there was only 6 books, but there's something like 15 or 20 of them. I've got to get them. I do have to get them. So I really loved that. I distinctly remember reading that over and over and over, to the point where where I grew up, we used to have a very sort of educational sort of kids store that had some books, and my mum would actually buy me these books, and they were quite expensive because she knew I loved them. So I used to have these beautiful red spined editions with these gorgeous painted sort of images on the front of them. I think they ended up in the family library at my parents' house, and a lot of those books have ended up damaged over the years. My parents have had some they've had to like renovate the house, things like that, and a lot of books have gotten damaged, so I don't think they exist anymore, but I would really love to get myself some copies of those books to have around the house for the kids. But yeah, those books I remember being very key in my development as a young reader, in just loving the story, and just, even though I'd read it, I'd just been able to reread it and reread it and reread it. And then around about 10 or 11 years old, my brother gave me, I got 2 books around about the same time. I don't know which one I got first and which one, I don't know of the 2 which one I read first, but I know both of them cemented my love of fantasy and my love of science fiction. So my love of fantasy was created by J.R.R. Tolkien. Lord of the Rings, books 1 to 3. I remember reading The Hobbit too, around about the same time I was reading the Silver Brumby series, and I love that. And then my brother said, well, if you like that, read this. He was right. I have pretty much reread The Lord of the Rings probably enough to say once a year. Sometimes twice in a year, sometimes not for a couple of years, but pretty much once a year for the rest of my life, for the last 30 years. And I love that book. I get more from it every year, and I am on a mission at the moment to completely read through the entire back catalogue of J.R.R. Tolkien. But yes, the Lord of the Rings was that book. It was that book. And the other book was my sci-fi book. And I've got to show it to you, because it is not what it's not what you would expect. It is not you. It is, obviously, where I can't reach it. Okay. So, around about the same time, I was getting the science fiction book, also by my brother, that I absolutely loved and adored. And it is this book, V, by A.C. Crispin. And this is the novelization of the movie television series. So the old one, the one done in the 90s, 80s. And there's a reason I write sci-fi now. I just absolutely adored this book. I adored the TV series too. I really did enjoy the TV series. And this just sent me down the path of science fiction. And then, there's a lot of books in this category, guys. In the early 2000s, I was doing a writing course. So I was doing the professional writing and editing diploma at what used to be called the Northern Institute of TAFE, which is now called, I think, Polytech. But I was writing sci-fi. And I had a lot of pressure from, in particular, one teacher, who shall go unnamed, but they weren't a very good teacher at all. They were a very good writer, but they weren't a good teacher. Anyway, they really, really wanted me to change my science fiction from an adult to a YA. They wanted me to focus on the teenager that's in the crew of my pirate ship and make it a coming-of-age story. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. That is not what I'm trying to write. I'm trying to write an adult science fiction. That is not the themes. The themes I had were completely wrong for a coming-of-age story. And I understand where they were coming from. If I had done that, I probably would have been able to go the traditionally published route. And it probably would have been traditionally published in the early 2000s. And it would have been, you know, probably something footnote in history. I mean, it couldn't compare with Hunger Games, but I could see I could see the commercial aspect of that path. And I'm like, no, that's not me. That's not what I want to write. That is, and they were like, well, there's no books out there like what you're trying to write. It's not going to work. And then this book got published. Richard Morgan's Altered Carbon. And oh, look at the cover. Ooh-wee. Adult sci-fi, adult themes, gritty, nasty, cyberpunky vibes, but not quite the Neuromancer. I love Neuromancer as well, but this book was a writing impact. Like, Neuromancer impacted me in the 90s when I read it, but this gave me the strength and the ability to just say, no, there is a market for the type of book I want to write. So this one was sort of in the 2000s, the book that I point out as a book that made me and got me back into reading too, because I'd stopped reading. I stopped reading quite a few times over my life. And then I went through I think I wrote and read up until like the teens, early teens. And then for about 10 or so years, 10, 15 years, I didn't write or read. No, about 10 years. About 10 years. I didn't write. I wasn't writing. I wasn't reading. I was in a very depressive phase. I was a cog in the corporate machine, and I was really struggling. And then I got pregnant. And with pregnancy came a lot of thought processes of, I didn't want my kids growing up seeing me being miserable in the work I was doing. I didn't want them seeing that I wasn't trying to do anything to better myself. And so I started writing again. And as a consequence, I started reading again. And I reckon since then, just trying to think. Yeah, because I wanted my kids to sort of see, like me and my husband. I want the kids to learn by example that, you know, you don't have to just accept the bare bones to survive. You can thrive. I started reading again, and I started writing again, and I'd say this book in the last few years has been probably the most impactful for me. So this is The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. I've got the hardcover edition, but I can't get it out because it's hiding behind my book. I'm not going to completely pull apart my shelves. But this is also a gorgeous cover too. And this just reminded me how science fiction can be thoughtful and still an adventure, and just inspecting elements of our daily lives and asking that question, what if? So that is Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. Naylor. And let me just put that back. I am trying to put my books back. And one other book that has affected me over the years. Can I reach it? Yes. Is this book. in my darkest years, in sort of the teens, the 20 teens, this book was one of the few books I managed to read and reread and reread, and I've got it on audiobook and I love listening to it. And that is Murakami's After Dark, which is sort of a slice of life, magical realism book. And this reminded me that I do like these kind of works as well. So yeah, this one has been, because this just takes place all in one night, and I really love that. And I love that technique, and I actually really want to try that technique myself in my writing. So yeah, I would say they are I would say they are all the books, or not all the books, but a good portion of the books, the big ones that like really stick out as ones that have made me a more conscious reader, a more steered me towards the path of reading in the genres that I like. And let's keep going before this gets too long. Okay, question number 4. Do you have a genre niche? Are there certain genres you gravitate towards, or do you read widely across genres? Okay, I think we've established I like sci-fi and fantasy. Sci-fi tends to be the genre that I really do gravitate towards, but it's not. I don't mind the epic sci-fis, but when it comes to like subgenres, I sort of lean towards sort of literary sci-fi, space adventure sci-fi, and cyberpunk. I love cyberpunk books. And an old favourite that seems to be reoccurring over every couple of years I jump back to is military sci-fi. I really do enjoy a good military sci-fi. So there's sci-fis. Fantasy, give me a good epic like Lord of the Rings and I'm happy. I've read Lord of the Rings. I really enjoyed the Elfstone trilogy. Elfsong? The Shannara series, that's what they're called. They got the Elfstones, the sword, and yeah, anyway. I loved them when I was growing up. They were a good series. I really enjoyed the Sarah Douglas's books. What are they called? Battle Axe is the first one. The Axis trilogy, I think, is the first trilogy, and then there's a sequel trilogy based around one of the sons of the main character. Just good, sort of good, chunky, thick fantasies. And I don't read them as often as I used to, but I am sort of feeling the itch to find myself a new one. And another sort of genre I like to read is slice of life literary fiction. So if you look at my shelves, translated works, if you could call that a genre, tends to be as well. But I've got the likes of Murakami, I've got the Even If This Love Disappears Tonight and its sequel, Pachinko. I literally just finished the Rabbitback Literature Society, which was a really interesting book. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm looking at my library to sort of get an idea here. Yeah. I like the occasional historical fiction. Not a big fan. Like I don't go in my way to read them, but I do like them enough to pick up the occasional one to read. But yeah, it's mainly sci-fi, fantasy. Oh, sorry. I reckon in order at the moment for me would be science fiction. Then it would be slice of life literature fiction, or magical realism. I do like the occasional magical realism, and then fantasy. That'll probably be the order of preference for reading for me at the moment. We'll move on. Question number 5. Do you generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? So, I like character-driven with a plot that makes sense. So what I like is I like the big stories with the bad guy or the murder to solve or something like that. But if the characters are flat, I just can't. But the characters can't be there for the sake of the plot, and the plot can't be there for the sake of the characters. They have to work together. I know, that's sort of a non-answer, but it's sort of like, think Lord of the Rings. They have a plot. They have to go from A to B without losing the ring at sea, okay? But the choices they make along the way are based on their characters and what they have to do. Like, Frodo chooses to pick up the ring in Elrond's council and say, I will take the ring to Mordor, because that is who he is. That makes sense for his character. Sam just says, I'm going with him, and no one's going to tell me not, and if you try to stop me, I will just follow, because that's who Sam is. And so they drive the plot, but at the same time there are external factors that make the plot affect them as well. So I think you need to have the balance of both. Question number 6. What's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? What's that one book you love enough for everyone? Oh. There's a lot of answers I could make for this one. But I think I'm going to have to make one. I think I'm going to have to say Dune, because I am aware Dune is not the easiest book to read. I think it is perfection. I love Dune. I love the first 4 books of Dune. I love them all. I think the 4 books are immaculate, and I know there's problems with them. I know they're not easy to read. I know they descend into philosophical and quite toothy sort of themes. But I love them enough that you can just say, oh, the movie makes more sense, I'm going to watch the movie. Fine, you go watch the movie. I'm going to enjoy watching Paul Atreides just descend into the horror that is the chosen one of this universe. I love it. I think Dune. At least up to the God Emperor Dune. I've read the 5th book and I got about a third of the way through the 6th book and I went, these last 2 books aren't particularly my thing, but I do love those first 4 books. I always say to people, if you read Dune, finish where you think it's perfect for you. And for me, that perfect finish is God Emperor of Dune. Okay, question 6. What's a book you love so much that you... Oh no, I've done that one. Question 7. What's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, you know your reading tastes don't align? The book or books where a difference of opinion is a strong indicator of different reading preferences. I'm just going to say pretty much sci-fi. I'll be honest, if I'm watching a booktuber and they go, oh, I just don't like sci-fi, I'm like, you're not for me. It's because it's true. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. 8. What's in your trash pocket? What books, tropes, or themes that you know are bad but you love them anyway? Bad tropes or themes? I'm not sure. I like old school sci-fi. So I'm not talking about the golden age of sci-fi in like the 60s and 70s. I like 80s and 90s sci-fi and fantasy. So I like the Mercedes Lackeys, the Elizabeth Moons, the Anne McCaffreys, and the Mike Resnicks and those, and Simon R. Greens. So I like, and the Forgotten Realms series and the Dragonlance series and all of those sort of books that were about 400 to 500, 350 to 450 pages long, but they were part of a bigger world, so those big universes that, and I know a lot of people don't like that style of writing. They sort of want either like a trilogy or a standalone. But I love those universes where you can sort of come at it from multiple different angles and you can enjoy it in multiple different ways. I guess that's the closest I can say to a trash blogger, because like if I was given the opportunity to sit there and reread the Forgotten Realms or the Dragonlance series, I probably would. I have been thinking lately about wanting to reread the Dragon Riders of Pern. I know I tried rereading Dragonflight recently, and recently 2 years ago, and I had to stop because I'd forgotten how misogynistic it was. But I also know the books get better because the society gets better. So I don't know. I think I'm starting to lean towards one. I think that's it. It's like, I know there's problematic shit in them. I know they're pretty bad, like in some respects with misogynistic and racism and stuff like that in that era. I grew up in that area. We weren't that educated, guys. So I can see why new readers looking back and reading those books can go, ooh, that's nasty. But I love them. And they're what started my journey into reading science fiction and fantasy. So yeah, I think that's what we can call my trash pocket, is those books. Question number 9. Do you have any deal breakers in books? Something that, if present, immediately turns you off from a book? Infidelity. Hands down, infidelity. I can't stand it. And I mean, when I say infidelity, I'm not talking about like in a big sort of fantasy series you might have the king went and, had it on with that barmaid, and now we've got a half prince, now we've got a half blood prince or whatever. That I can sort of live with. But I'm talking about, like, particularly in more modern lit, when you open the book and the book is immediately the female main character knowing she's having an affair because the man she's with is married with 2 kids, but she continues to do it even though she knows it's wrong. She continues to, no. 1, he needs to learn to keep it in his pants, and 2, ew, yuck, ew. What was it? The green dot. I DNF'd it off page 2 because of that. Question number 10. What's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year, whether it's overrated, underrated, or just a take you need to share? A book that was released in the last year. I don't know how old it is, but A Fate Inked in Blood. I'm sorry, but I will harp onto this to the day I die. Norse culture had divorce. Specifically, it had divorce for abusive relationships. If a woman could prove by, going to the Jarl and saying, look, my husband hit me, and I think it's 3 times for, minor offences, they were allowed to divorce, and she would get half of the property. She would, or children, or what, there would be a split agreement. If it was severe abuse, it was immediate, done deal. And she would get to take all of the assets that she had brought to the relationship, any that she's helped grow, whatever. Divorce existed. But then you see these people say that they're done a Norse-inspired romantasy. You open the book, and the first thing they're talking about is how their husband's abusive. Now, abusive relationships in a book are not going to kill the book for me in general, because the story, hopefully, would be about them leaving that abusive relationship and growing as a person and becoming stronger and being able to walk away. But when you say you're inspired by a culture, and even the most bare minimum of research would have told you that culture had an answer to that issue, and you don't use it, no. I can't. A Fate Inked in Blood, I was really hopeful for it. I wanted to get into romantasy. I was really excited to read it. I need to fill up my water in a minute. Okay. Question 11. What do you look for in writing? What makes a book stand out to you? Is it prose style, themes, voice, structure, or something else? It's a little bit of everything. I guess I look at a lot of my reading through the lens of a writer myself. So sometimes I just want plain prose. Just that gets the story across. It's just a basic adventure. They go off, have fun, learn something new, come back, change people, all that sort of thing. Then there's the books like Mountain in the Sea, where you can just see the author's layered themes on top of themes. I really particularly liked in The Mountain in the Sea, there's a lot of theme around wet and rain and sea and water, because obviously Mountain in the Sea, and there's just this, you can just see how they're using the water as a theme running throughout, and I really did like that as well. So I like sort of a mix, and and it comes down to the book. It really does come to the book. And then there's books where, they're translated books, so they might not be fantastic in the prose, but the storyline is something different. It's a different story structure because it's from a different culture with a slightly different sort of bent on storytelling. And that's interesting too. That's extremely interesting as well to me. So I kind of look for a little bit of difference in everything. Question 12. How do you decide what to read next? Do you plan ahead, mood read, or follow external factors, hype, recommendations on arcs? Okay, I've only ever been given 2 arcs. And I did read the first arc immediately. The second arc, I've been struggling to read ebooks, so I actually went out and bought the book physically. I had to. But that sort of, for me at the moment, what is working for me at the moment is I am currently trying to get my TBR down to books I've purchased in the last 6 months. So I'm currently about books that have been purchased in about the last 12 to 13 months. I'm finishing off some March 2024 purchases. And so what I have been doing is actually just looking at the books I bought, like the oldest ones I bought, and grabbing them like in the month. There might be 4 or 5 in the month, and then I can just sort of pick out of that, and that's sort of like my monthly TBR to read. So that's sort of what I'm doing at the moment. It's working. Other times I feel like reading that. Or I just recently finished Pattern Recognition by William Gibson, and I am very excited to get into Spook Country, but I am not going to read it straight away. But in the past, yes, if a series has grabbed me at that first book, I have just gone and gotten the rest of the series and read the whole series. So I do a little bit of everything, but at the moment I am trying to read the oldest books first to get that TBR pile down. And it's sort of taken the question out of what to read next for me a bit at the moment, because I can just say, well, there's only 3 books here, so I've got to pick one of them. Question 13. Where do you get your inspiration for your booktube content? Where do you get inspiration for your booktube content? What sparks video ideas, other creators, trends, personal reading experiences? At the moment, I'm just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. If you like a particular video of mine, make sure you comment on it or like it or something, so I know that it's one that you liked. But yeah, at the moment, it's mainly lives. Because for young kids, I work and have a house to run, and yeah. So yeah, I've got a lot of ideas that I want to do, mainly by watching other YouTubers and getting ideas from them, but yeah, whether or not I actually have the energy to do them, another question. One we shall not answer here today. 14. If you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? A book you think deserves more attention? Can I be selfish and put my own book forward? I'm only joking. Well, I'm only semi-joking. Because it's a good sci-fi A book that I would love to see go viral. I would say I would love to see Ashwood and Brimstone go a little bit viral. So this book, Ashwood and Brimstone by E.A. Oliveri, is actually Emmy, who's a very good friend of this channel. And this was her first release. Book 1 in the Corinthia series? I don't know what she's calling this series. She's still working on book 2. But yeah, it's a dark fantasy world. Elves as the main characters as opposed to humans for once. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a good book to read. I've got, see, I got my annotation in there. I just think it was fun, and it was the first time I'd read a fantasy in a long time and enjoyed it and wanted to keep reading. So yeah, and her other book that's out at the moment, so if you don't want to invest in such a big one, is Of Greed and Glory, which is a much smaller novella prequel. And yeah, no, I would love to see her go viral. Full disclaimer, as I said, she's a friend of the channel. Let's just put this in first today, and then let's have a chat. Okay. So yeah, I would just love to see her get some success. Well, she's had success, but I'd love to see her success grow, because I think the book deserves it. Any other book I'd like to see go viral? Pretty much every sci-fi I've read, every indie sci-fi I've read, I really would love to see them go viral. I really do enjoy the McMurdo series. I don't even know if that's the official name for them. Bradley Lejeune. They're all the way up the top of my bookcase. I can't get them down. First one is the McMurdo Rift. They're a lot of fun. They're sci-fi adventure, and Jeff the Cat is the best one in there. I love Jeff the Cat. Okay, and question 15. Who are some booktubers with reading tastes similar to yours? And that's the problem. I am yet to find them. So if you know, I mean, The Secret Source of Storycraft, I think was the name. She reads a lot of sci-fi, but she doesn't read the same sort of sci-fi I read. Or at least she wasn't last time I watched her. Yeah, I just can't think of any, which is kind of why I wanted to do this tag, because I want to find more people that like the same content that I like the sci-fis, and the translated literary fiction. So yeah, I do enjoy watching Emmy. I do like watching her shows. She's actually recommended a lot of books that I actually ended up enjoying. So she, If on a Winter's Night a Traveller, The Wolf in the Whale, what else has she recommended on her channel that I've ended up buying and reading and loving? Oh, Even If This Love Disappears Tonight. So I'd say, yeah, Station 11. I think she had it on her. She even had it on a TBR, I think. I don't know if she recommended it or not. But yeah, Emmy, yes, I would say she reads quite different books to what I read, but when our tastes align, they align. So yeah, that is the Get to Know My Taste booktube tag. Yeah. Let me know below if you like a good indie sci-fi or a good sci-fi yourself. And I would say like, comment and subscribe, but we are all adults here. Do whatever the fuck you want. And I shall hopefully see you in the next video.